So let's do this one. And how do we do it? So cosine of this, let me write it out here for us. And I guess I better go a little slower. My pen is slowing down. Cosine of x plus 5 pi over 4. And they want us to write it in terms of sine and cosine. What are we going to do? Well, can we just say, well, this is just the cosine of x? You can tell by my tone, no. And the cosine of 5 pi over 4, no, right? That's a big no-no. No, we cannot simply distribute. It's not multiplication. Cosine is function. It's not multiplication. Well, then what is right to do? That's why we have the whole formulas, right? So we have a whole special formula for cosine. We grab it. The whole special formula for cosine is right here. It says if you have the cosine of two angles, right down here, two angles added, it's not just cosine, cosine. It's cosine, cosine, and sine, sine. And the plus or minus in the middle is opposite. See that? Plus minus is minus plus, that means opposite. So it's a whole cosine, cosine, sine, sine thing. It's not just distribution. So that's the special formula. So what do we got to do? We've got to, in fact, let me just move this equal sign down here. We've got to say it's cosine, cosine, and it's sine, sine. And you got to go first inside, you got to keep the right order. So x and 5 pi over 4 and x and 5 pi over 4. And then the sign in the middle right here, it's got to be opposite. Remember, because cosine is not our friend. He's the opposite. Opposite sign in the middle. Okay, now what do we do with that? Well, cosine x just stays cosine x. Oops. Sloppy here. My pen is just getting so slow, it's lagging. It's just cosine x, okay, times. Now, what's the cosine of 5 pi over 4? Well, we can just go to the unit circle and grab it. Let's go to the unit circle, put it in here. 5 pi over 4, where is it? Right here. 5 pi over 4. Cosine and sine, they're both negative root 2 over 2. So we just go, okay. So this is negative root 2 over 2 minus, and then this will be sine x times and sine of 5 pi over 4, same thing as we saw in the unit circle, negative root 2 over 2. Now, what are we going to do from here? Well, I would suggest that you put these numbers in the front of the x's, in front of the sine and cosines. Why? You don't have to, there's no rule, but I think it would help your eyes to see what's happening better. You know that you can switch, these are just times. You can switch the order of multiplication. You know that 2 times 3 is 6, just like 3 times 2 is 6. It doesn't matter what order, right? So I can say, okay, I'm just going to put the negative root 2 over 2 in the front of the cosine x. Bring down this minus sign carefully. And then the negative root 2 over 2 in the front of the sine of x. Like that, okay? And now you can see it, huh? These two negatives are going to become positive. So what do we have? Negative root 2 over 2 cosine x plus root 2 over 2 sine of x. And that right there is a great final answer. Just like that. Now, there is another way they might write. That's fine to type it in that way. The homework system will take it. But I want you to know, or you could actually factor out the negative root 2 over 2. It might look this way on a multiple choice test. So I don't want you to be fooled if it comes up. Oops, this is also right. That's another valid answer. Why? How do we know? Why is that right? Well, I just factored out that if you can see it's right, because if you multiplied it in, it would go back to negative root 2 over 2. But what about this one? Negative times negative back to positive. See, it's correct. So either one of those answers is correct. So how did we get that? We just took the original expression, x plus 5 pi over 4, and I just did the cosine, sine formula from our notes for adding cosine of two angles or subtracting, and then got the values from the unit circle that I could get, put those in the front. There we go. And then I did the factor version. Either one's good. Both are right. One's not any better than the other.